Yeah, because I posted the last time's lecture. Anybody heard any of it?
Yes, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, good. Because yeah, very good. Because really, these are, as I told you last time, these are the lectures that I gave last term, and really, I'm repeating the same thing here. But maybe somebody is writing in the chat. Okay. Now, the idea is, um, as I told you before, this is not exactly 100%, if you like, copying, because I told you last time I'm not a machine. I maybe say things differently from the previous lecture. So that's why I will go on and I will record these lectures again to maybe in case I said something else or an additional thing. But the main component and the main thing is already there for you, posted from last term. Anyway, the idea I was trying to really say to you here is, again, here I go back to my screen. You can see it again?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, very good. So I'm saying here, we have to react to this act of transformation, and we have to be armed with various tools to defend our entities and positions. Really, I mean here is when you read a short story, I'm saying that writers want us to believe them, to accept their ideas, to follow them, because always writers write something to make you say, wow, this is lovely, wow, this is beautiful, and so on. And maybe to follow their ideas and to admire their ideas, to admire their writings, and to believe them. They could be telling you something really dangerous, but still maybe you follow them. But the idea I'm saying here, we as readers, we have to learn how to react to texts, whether to believe or not believe, to accept or not accept what is given to us, because we have our own minds, we have our own reactions, and we have our own characters and positions and beliefs and ideologies and whatever. So we have to use our own minds of whether or not, yes or not, to accept or not to accept what is given to us. And really, this is true. This is applied to anything you really hear or see or believe or whatever. So in some sense here, this implies that we have to be careful about what we have read or what we read or how we read it, including novels or stories or fables or really in any culture, whether in our even own culture sometimes. For that matter, for fear of naming or if you like, naming of things or transforming old habits and traditions, which could be maybe not true, or which could be, as I say here, prove really vital or important. In other words, really, we want to see how writers write, because we want to understand how we learn something. Because at the end of the day, we read a story because we want to, first, we want to enjoy ourselves, maybe to pass the time, because really literature is for entertainment and for knowledge, not just for knowledge or not totally for entertainment. Both, really. We read a poem, we read a story, we read a novel, we go to the theater, we watch a play, we watch a film, or all these things. We do all these things for so many reasons. Maybe one main reason, which is entertainment, to enjoy and pass the time. Yes, but again, really, we learn something. We must learn something. Really, we must learn something. If we don't learn anything from a film or a novel or a short story, then this novel or short story or this film is rubbish. Really rubbish. We have to learn something, because literature teaches something. There are moralities, there are lessons to be learned from anything, really. Otherwise, it will be a waste of time. And we don't want our time to be wasted in the same way. For example, you are here with me this morning, you woke up and you say, oh, doctor, you woke up, you wake all of us up this morning and, for nothing. No, it's not for nothing. This is the idea. You are really trying to get something at the end of the day because you want to, if you like, really widen your knowledge and horizon and to educate yourself about things and so on. This is the idea. We read a story because we learn something. Otherwise, we read a poem because we want to learn something valuable, something moral, something educational, something to do with us, with you as a real person, with you as a wife, with you as a child, with you as a man, with you as a woman, as an old man or a society or anything. Yeah, of course, there are messages, there are ideas, there are things to be taken and to be learned and to be followed. Yeah, but sometimes these ideas could be bad, could be acceptable, could be horrible, could be whatever. So it's up to you here in this way to accept or not accept. This is what I mean. You understand? Do you
Yes.
understand, boys and girls?
Yes.
Yeah. Please, as I told you, even from the first day, as I told you, please, ladies and gentlemen, really never, accept everything. I don't know, am I presenting or sharing here? I don't know what's, anyway. I'm saying I would like you really to, give me your own reactions. Maybe you don't feel courageous enough to say something now. Maybe you're still half asleep, but all our lectures are in the morning. So please, you have to be wide awake to share with me things and to really discuss things with me here, because I want you to really understand what I'm saying. Now, to go back to my idea here, is again, as you can see, I say this course is designed to provide a reasonably comprehensive and simplified account of the elements of fiction making or biography writing as generally conceived by readers and critics alike. This is what I'm saying here. Really, I want to give you sort of a general and simple, really. As you shall see, I'm simplifying things to make you understand that, because I've taken this from so many sources and I've written this myself, as I said, maybe ages ago. Originally, really, I've taken this from my own book. If I can show you this, let me see. If I can show you that now, I don't know. Let me check. Please wait for me for a little bit to check if I can see, if I can show you this. Where is it? Where is it? Let me show you this. Yeah, my books. Wait for me, please, for a little bit to show you, because this is, yeah, where are we? Yeah. Because this is a oh, this is a cover. Yeah, but where is the other cover? Let me see. Well, I don't know. I thought I had the anyway, where is it? Oh no, this is not the same. Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe it's not. I did not find that one. But I thought I had it. But anyway, I want to just say. Oh, oh my God! I think I lost. No, no, I'm here. Okay, so. I'll start sharing again, and maybe I lost. Where is it? Yeah, let me go back again to where I was. I'm saying this is really simplified because originally I published this as a book for my students back home and in other places where I taught. But for your sake, I have sort of designed some of this and made it simpler and briefer because I thought this is really a little bit easier for you to understand and to follow. So I'm saying here, the focus of this course will be more and more, if you like, on the short story, as you shall see. And here I give briefly more examples of short stories, but I give one or two examples of fables and one or two examples of parables, again, to just show you the difference between a short story and a fable or parable. And I'm saying here, the focus of this course will be more the short story, which somehow includes the fable and all the technical elements associated with the making of fiction or elements of fiction, then biography, then the essay as a genre. These genres will be studied with the help of sample texts to clarify what is taught. Again, as I said, I will give you examples of short stories, examples of things to say, well, here, for example, I say the plot is this and the character is this and so on. I'm talking here about the components of fiction or the elements of fiction, how they are exemplified through these short stories. And I think that's the idea I want to really say here. Now, again, as you can see here, I say the elements of fiction. I'm saying that these elements of fiction have been used by many writers before, of course. It's not to really, it's not me who made this, of course, you know, God forbid. But I'm saying that this is something been talked about or written by many people, mainly the big names like E.M. Forster and Henry James and Percy Lubbock, and great names in the English fiction or English really masters of the novel. So I've taken these elements of fiction and the main components, really, I've taken them from E.M. Forster in his great book called The Aspects of the Novel, published 1927, as you can see. Now, Forster really gave us lovely and elaborate description of these in his book called, as I said, Aspects of the Novel, as you can see here. And but before Forster, we have somebody American, I think, called Percy Lubbock in his book called The Craft of Fiction, again published 1923. Again, discussed the same material from a perspective of a critic who was theorizing about the genre. Again, before Lubbock, we have the great man, the master of fiction, Henry James, the American, later British name, Henry James, who discussed these elements, who talked about them in his own ways, in his essays, really, and books everywhere, especially in his book called The Theory of Fiction, he really did that, and this is edited by James Miller, as you can see, because James wrote about these things in many ways, in many of his writings, and J. Miller, or James E. Miller, really did this in his book published and edited by him, by Miller, 1972, and he called it The Theory of Fiction, Henry James, in which here he's theorized about the art and craft of fiction from the perspective of a strong novelist and critic, of course, like Henry James. But really, I took, as I said, these ideas, I took them mainly from Forster, because I thought Forster is, to me, I think, is friendlier and easier to follow and to understand by us here, for example, as students of literature. Now, Forster, however, gave us the comprehensive picture of how fiction is made and written by novelists. And that's why my study here in this book, I say here because originally it's a book, relies heavily on his book, Aspects of the Novel. Forster argues that studying the nature of fiction entails some artificial division of this mode of writing into various constituents. I'm saying artificial because when I say story, because in a novel we have, or in a short story, really you cannot separate plot from story, from theme, from character, from point of view. All these things are really mingled together. Separating them is artificial, is done only for the sake of teaching, not in real sense. That's what I'm saying here. Okay, so that's why I'm saying he believes that talking about story or plot would also mean talking about character, setting, or point of view. In other words, the division between these elements is only done for academic and analytical purposes. These elements are interdependent, interrelated, and inseparable from each other. That's what I'm saying here. That's why Forster says that there is a big advantage of such division for the purpose of understanding this complex subject of fiction making and storytelling. Of course, there are certain elements that Forster mentions in this book, or in his book in detail, but for me here, really, they're not important, sometimes in different names. But here I map out only those ones which have been adopted in literary criticism as the mainstream elements of fiction. I made them myself because in my own writings, in my own books, because I've written books on that myself later on literary criticism and literary theory, and you can see this. I published that in many ways. Maybe you can see here. I will show you that maybe later on. Now, the first maybe before talking about that, if I go back to, you say, fable and, the parable, as we shall see, I will give you the brief example now. Fables and parables, again, the same thing, they are fictional. But the difference really between a short story and a fable, or a short story and a parable, parables and fables could be very mythological, very traditional, and very short, could be very short. And fables are mostly, as we shall see later, I will explain that to you later. Fables are made, or characters are animal characters, mostly animal characters. That's the genre. Originally, this is how fables, or what the fable is made, mostly done through animal characters. Whereas in the short story, that's not the case. Of course, there are short stories with animal characters, but not in general. So really, this is the main idea. The parable could be, again, different because it's more religious. It's more taken from biblical references, more religious biblical references, biblical background, to do with religious context, especially, of course, here, really, it's taken from Christian, if you like, culture or Christian background. And as we shall see that in detail when I come to the parable and the fable later. Okay, so the first element of fiction here today is I'm going to show you is what we call a story. Right? Any question? Boys and girls, any question?
No.
Okay, so so are you following any comments, any ideas? Okay, so you're not willing to say anything. Okay. Now, if I begin today here with the story, okay. Now, I'm saying really a story is quite simple, really. When you say anything, you talk about whatever thing you say, well, there is a story there. You want to say it. You want to convey a piece of information, a piece of knowledge. You tell something, and that's why here I say in my introduction, I say, well, every piece of fiction tells a story or tells something about people. Tells something. So in any story, there is something you have to say, piece of information, as I said. The meaning of story at its lowest level is this act of telling a certain event about someone through language. This is the simplest and the lowest and the really easiest definition of a story, is to tell a certain event about a certain person. That's it, through language. Story is the straightforward information about what happened to someone at a certain time in history. Yeah. If you say, for example, John went to London yesterday, you give here the simple components of a story. That is, you have people, you have event, you have place, and you have time. John went to London yesterday. John people went the event of going, and London the place and time yesterday. You say, I'm saying here, this is a piece of information. But when you say John went to London yesterday, and if you are saying this to your friend, you say, okay, yeah, so what? Okay, what else? You know, that's not enough to say, well, John went to London yesterday. What is the idea, you know? So that's why here we say that's not enough. That's not enough. This does not make a story. But if you say John went to London yesterday to bring his son back, to bring his son back, he went quickly because his son fled there, you know. So here you start to tell what's going on. John went to London to bring back his son. His son, why his son went to London? Why he wants to bring him back to London? Because his son maybe had reasons to run away from his father or whatever, and to fly away to London and blah, 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 you know? So here you start to tell, you know, events. Here we have a story because we have a series of events happening one after the other and making a possible narrative. The idea of chronology or time is emphasized. You say yesterday, one before the other. John went first, or the son went first, and then the father went after him. So there is a sequence, you know, one event after another, and there's a time, yesterday and the day before and the day before or the week before or after a month. So you mentioned time. So there is a sequence of time, one before the other or after the other. So there is arrangement of time, and again arrangement of, you know, events one after, and that's what I mean here, chronology. You know, that is the arranging of time. Such a sentence would also make a story if the reader gets enough information about the background of the event or about the background of the characters, like of John and his son, and even, if you like, the event which leads up to the son's departure from home, you know, and you go on. So if you give more and more and more information on details and so on, so you will have a real story. As we say, really, you know, we always make stories, isn't it? Yeah, Suha? Suha?
Yes, doctor.
Can you, sorry?
People love to hear stories.
Yeah, and are we good in making up stories?
Yeah, people, since the creation start, they always tell stories about everything to understand everything.
Yeah, can you tell me, for example, you say, oh, doctor, I will tell you something. Yesterday, I went with my friend to the market, and wow, we bought this and this and that. And wow, we met this and we met that, blah, 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 blah. Correct?
Yeah.
And we went to a restaurant and we had a lovely meal, and there we met a friend and blah, 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 blah. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do I know that this is, you are saying this? How do I know, as Dr. Mahmoud today, how do I know that what you are saying is the truth?
You can't tell. Sometimes you can't tell because of the details. If I'm good enough, if I'm telling the story good enough with details, you might believe it. But if I'm not including details, the story might look like a lie.
Yeah. But do we always, yeah, very good, yes, Suha. Yeah, do we always good, like, for example, we give gossip, we gossip, we say, oh, have you seen that? Oh, have you seen her, what she's dressing? Oh, what have you seen? This somebody bought, our neighbors bought a lovely car. Or, wow, have you seen him, the way he is, blah, 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 blah. You know, this gossiping thing, what do you think? What do you think about gossip? Is it a kind of story making?
It's a kind of story, but on someone's point of view.
Exactly. So in Arabic, for example, we say, and I think our friends, our Haneen, can you, anybody, Sumaya, Razan, I'm reading the names I have in front of me. I don't know any one of you in person, but yeah, can you, for example, think of what we in Arabic we say about this? Our Egyptian neighbors, they are very good in this. They use a word for that in Arabic. We say really, you know, there's a word for a story in Egyptian dialect. What is it?
Hatuta.
Oh, wow. So that means you have listened to my video last time, correct?
Yeah.
Very good. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we say hatuta. Very good. Yeah, because really we are means a little story. You know, there's a little something. We have to say something, you know, because really at the end of the day, in every piece of information, there is a hatuta here. There is a piece of knowledge we have to convey. We have to say it because that's the nature of telling. That's the nature of narrating. That's the nature of gossiping. You know, could be lies, yes. You know, fiction, yeah. You can say absolutely. You know, the whole thing is a pack of lies, yes, because that's the nature of fiction, of stories. And that's the idea, really, I'm saying here, that every piece of fiction is a creation. And when we say hatuta, when you say to me, we went to the market, we went to a restaurant, we had a lovely meal, we met Susan, we met another man, we met another old man, we met blah 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 blah. The whole thing could be not true, could be your own creation. And I have no way to reject this. I can't reject it. I can never reject it unless, you know, it makes sense to me. But when you say how you narrate it, it makes sense to me. And you say, wow, this is true. And I believe it. And, you know, this is the idea. So stories really are that simple. Any piece of information could mean a story. So notice here we say, we can define a short story as was here, a series of events arranged in their time sequence and interrelated by a sense of causality, meaning we have events arranged together, they are arranged according to time, and as I said here, a time sequence, and again related to each other by causality. It means because something happened because of something. You know, you went to, for example, you say, well, my friend invited me to a restaurant yesterday because it was her birthday, because she invited so many people. And I accepted the invitation because I like her, because she's my friend, because I respect her, because blah, 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 blah. So when you say because, this is, you know, what I'm talking about, causality. So events related to each other by this sense of causality, you know, one thing causing the other. That's what I mean. The essence here, I say the essential part of this definition is the time sequence or chronology. Really what makes a story is chronology, really time sequence. Whereas causality is related to plot, to be honest with you. Causality is related to plot. Notice here I say time sequence is related to the story, whereas the part interrelated by a sense of causality is closer to the meaning of plot, as we shall see. So time leads to story, whereas causality leads to plot, as I said. But here we shall adopt the above definition to refer to story. Generally, we read stories and novels primarily for entertainment. Again, I said that to you. We entertain, but really we also learn. But the most rewarding and gratifying story is the one that provides both entertainment and knowledge. Yeah, of course. A story achieves great elevation and distinction when it tackles human problems and tries to give suggestions to various social dilemmas. Finally, again, I say, a story can be divided into, again, I think this is a short definition here for you. A story can be divided into a story of situation or a story of character. This is a very simple definition. As I said, as you can see, really this is very brief, and I'm trying to make it simple to make you understand, these components of fiction. The story of situation is the one which deals with the examination of certain social or political problems, or problem, if you like, of any given time. So here the focus on a situation, on a certain situation, or a certain context, or a certain problem, certain, disaster or problem or case or situation. It could be personal or it could be social, could be about a political problem, or it could be for a certain, person or persons or people or society or a family or whatever. So I'm saying situation. Whereas when I say story of character means one person. Notice the story of character, on the other hand, is the one which centers on the human being or the individual character than on society. It investigates the psychology of man and his motives in life. Again, here you say, well, doctor, characters, stories always have characters, and events always are about people. Yeah. But you see, when you focus more on society, when you focus more on the problem itself, and you talk, if you like, you elaborate philosophy, if you like, in a way, in a sort of philosophical way, you talk about the whole matter more and more and more, and you forget the man or woman who are, if you like, involved in the matter. Here you are talking about the situation. Whereas when you focus more on the person, you are talking here about the situation, the story of character, means the focus more on the person. And as I said, really, again, I think, again, this division is artificial, because, again, you really cannot divide situation from character, or situation from man or woman. I'm saying here we are doing it only for the sake of elaboration and explanation. I'm saying here, really, we say this division is artificial, since we cannot really draw such demarcation line between such types of stories. In each case, sometimes, or something significant about human life has to be expressed, either openly, which is not commonly done by writers simply, or, because they want to do that. Since fiction, of course, at the end of the day, sometimes they don't give us direct things. They always give you indirectly, because that's the nature of literature. Because literature, they don't give you the answer. They don't give you answers, because literature is not science, is not history, is not politics. Literature is imagination, and they give you hints. They suggest to you, they make you think. And this is the idea I'm saying, that writers, by its very nature, they do not provide prescriptions to social problems or social ills. They're not giving you medications. They're not giving you answers. They tacitly or they hide things. That's why I'm saying tacitly conveyed through character and action. The unconscious way, mostly prevalent in fiction. Unconscious way means indirect way, or sometimes in a like you have to read between lines. You have to read, you know, beyond words and so on. So really, this is the idea I want to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, today. Now, any question about story?
No questions so far.
My boys and girls, any question? No. Okay, so yeah, so let me see. Right. Now, if I move, let me double check one thing, please. I want to check another point here before I move on, because I want to make sure. Yeah, I'm just checking. Yeah. Okay, so really the idea here then is simple, to go back to the question of plot. And I think here the plot, as you can see again, is something really very important in fiction. Now, plot really is, again, very simple, is how you connect things together. Really, how you make your story, how you connect, how you start, how you build up, how you really make up and create the events, the characters, the events, where and how, etc., etc. How you build up all this structure is what's called plot. And I think, you know, in English even we say how we knit the events. Because in Arabic, I think the word Arabic, in Arabic, I think is very good word. We say hibka or lhabka, or how you really, you know, knit things together, how you link things together. That's what plot. And really, the good novels or good novels are good because of their good plots. Because sometimes writers, and in fact, good writers always are good because they write good plots. Because if you don't know how to make a good plot, then your story will be funny, and your novel will not be really as lovely as it should be. Really, this is the idea. That's why we always think that plot is absolutely essential in a novel or a short story or in a play. Really, without a plot, you lose all the tracks. The very simple definition of plot here given by our friend Forster is, he said, the action which forms the backbone of a story, the backbone, you see. So really, it's the main line of things, the main body, the main skeleton, you know, the backbone, the main skeleton of a story or a novel or any play. This means without a plot, we can't have a novel or a short story. That's why our previous definition of the story as being a narrative of events arranged in their time sequence, again, we said would have to be slightly modified, which said to arouse the reader's curiosity and to introduce a sense of mystery into the action. Notice, a plot is used to arouse the reader's curiosity and to introduce a sense of mystery into the action. When you say John went to London to bring back his son, so we said this is the sense, you know, to arouse. We say why he went to London? Oh, to bring his son. Why his son went there? Oh, because his mom is there. Why his mom is there? What happened? You know, these questions, when you start to ask questions, you say you want to know, and, you know, this is the sense of curiosity. Curiosity, you want to know, right? And here, so that means there's something mysterious, there's something hidden, and you want to know it. And that's exactly the idea. When you say, oh, I went to a restaurant yesterday. Oh, where? Oh, in Al Khuwair, for example. Or maybe in, I don't know, in where about, anywhere. You say, oh, what restaurant? Oh, what kind of food? Oh, what did you see? Oh, etc., etc., etc. So when you ask these questions, these are curiosity, you know, out of your own curiosity. And as if there's something hidden or something mysterious, and you want to know it. You want to know it. And this is exactly what I'm saying. To arouse the reader's curiosity and to introduce a sense of mystery into the action. The sense of causality here, or the reason behind the action, is emphasized in order to give the justification of why something has happened. The plot, as we say here, is the action which is ordered and reordered to stress causality and to achieve a sense of mystery. This is it again, another definition. So the action which is ordered and reordered. Notice here I say ordered, and maybe you reorder it sometimes. So there is always this sense of ordering and reordering, reordering and ordering, and so on. Why? Because you want to emphasize the causality. Something causes the happening of something else. Why? To achieve, as I said, to achieve a sense of mystery. For example, when you say, guess what? We went yesterday to a restaurant, and guess what? Whom do you think we have seen? Oh my God, we have seen something. Oh my God, guess what? You know? And people say, oh, who? Who was it? You know? And this, when you say that, I say, okay, I'll tell you later. Wait a minute. Let me tell you before how we went there. Oh, we drove by a car. Oh, we went on a donkey. Oh, we drove by, you know, we drove on a bicycle. Or why on a bicycle? Why you went on a horse? Blah, 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 blah. You understand? So here you start to ask questions and questions because you want to make people say, oh, you want people to read. You want people to listen to you. And that's the beauty of story making, because you want people to listen to you, isn't it? Are you listening to me now, or are you asleep? Back to bed? You registered yourself as present and you went back to bed.
No, we are listening.
Really? Having coffee or tea or cornflakes? Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame. Okay. Now, the idea really, I want to say that stories always make you think, make you feel that you want to read and you want to follow. And really, this is the idea. That what we are saying here about curiosity. Okay, now this means that the order of time is there, but it's not emphasized. There is, again, it's there in order to explain how things happen and why they happen. Again, we say the more our sense of curiosity is stimulated, the more satisfaction we get from following the line of events and how the plot is revealed. Meaning, how much you create this sense of curiosity, you want to listen and you want to read more and more and more. Now, I'm saying here about listening if you are giving a story orally, but if you are writing here, we're talking about writing story because you want to read. So that's the idea here. Our elevation or appreciation of life and the human nature and the subject of fiction as a whole. So plot, again, I say here, does not does much more than arousing our curiosity, introducing a sense of mystery in the story. Plot gives unity to the action. So the plot, when I say hibka, or we say yahbuku, means yarbutu, isn't it? And really here to say means to knit, to connect and interconnect, and to relate and interrelate things. That's why that's the meaning of a plot, to give unity, to give coherence, really. So plot gives unity to the entire action and shows coherent production of a component of a competent, for example here, author. Again, plot is the real test of good fiction. Okay, and of course, and of serious and solid events. In a story, always we ask, as we say, what happened next? Because when you are reading, you want to know what happens next, because you are looking for a mystery, as we said. So we always say, yeah, and so what? And what happened? Yeah, and you are listening, for example, or you are reading, and you want to know what happened, you know, and this is the idea. So the question we say in a story, we ask, yeah, and then. But in a plot, we ask how, you know, this is the idea. So instead of saying what happened in a story, but in a plot, we say how it happened. Notice, in a plot, we ask how and why things happen and give answers to that, and we see how the whole thing is unified. Indeed, in a plot, the writer, as well as the reader, achieves a sense of unity, solidity, coherence, and wholeness of the action. You know, that's what we say. When you learn how the things happen, why they happened like this. You know, for example, when you begin a story at the beginning, or you begin it in the middle, or you begin it at the end, and then you have to go back to the beginning, or in the middle, and you have to go back to the beginning, and so on and so forth. So the way it's arranged and the way it's interrelated, it shows here the strength of the plot. And really, this is the idea. We say this is a good plot and this is a bad plot, or a loose plot. Sometimes you lose the way. If you lose the track, if you lose tracks, then you are in a bad plot, you know? So that's why we say here, this is really when we say leads us to draw definition or distinction between a good plot and a loose plot. A good plot is the one we have been talking about, which gives unity and coherence to the action. You know, that's when you see the action really very unified, very well connected, very well coherent. You understand things. You can easily connect and interconnect and interrelate and relate to yourself to the events, and you can understand there's logic and so on and so forth. So you say, wow, this is a good plot. This is a great plot. Whereas when you lose your way, then you are in a loose plot. A loose plot. Notice, a loose plot is the one which is neither well manipulated nor tightly drawn by the writer, and which leaves the reader wandering away or wander away into unknown areas instead of keeping him interested in the story, or leaves the reader really again sometimes, you know, unknown areas instead of keeping him again, as I said, sorry, I read that again. A loose plot is classed as a bad plot because it leads the reader into deviations and blunts the edges of his own curiosity and lessens the expectation. Because really, when in a loose plot, sometimes when you lose your way and you can't understand and you have to go back and read and then come back again and you lose your way, then this is really a bad plot. This is really a loose plot. Whereas a good plot, always things are really nicely, maybe they are difficult to follow, but they are well connected. And here I will show you, for example, later in our stories, the example is A Rose for Emily, for example, is a good example of how a plot is knit, and the action also, how for example, how the action begins in the story. For example, at the opening of the story, when we get an idea about Miss Emily, her past family and her life in the town, and very quickly we know that Miss Emily is the protagonist of the story, and Homer Barron seems to be the antagonist, except that the reader really means, he never really enters the story. As we shall see, of course, later we shall see this, and I will explain it to you. So the idea how events are really nicely connected and interrelated, that's what we mean by a good plot. If you are lost in a story, if you are lost in a novel, then it is a bad plot. And I'm sorry to say, well, this is the case in many stories like that. Not all authors are able to write really lovely plot, if you like. I will give you this little paragraph here, and then I will stop today. In fiction, there is always a complication story which emphasizes the plot and which is often called subplot or secondary storyline, which runs parallel to the main story subplot, or the main story or narrative or story or plot. The subplot is called the minor plot or the counter plot, and often involves the minor or secondary character in a novel. I'm saying here really in a story, in a short story, you have only one little story about one man and a woman, for example. That's it. Whereas in a novel, you have so many plots, means you have so many characters. You have the main characters and their main plot, and you have other characters and their own subplots and subplots. And these plots are there to help the main plot. And that's what I'm saying here. So you have main narrative or main story, and then other tiny stories and smaller characters and smaller characters. And really, this is the story all the time. You have, for example, a novel with 100 characters. You say, whoa, what on earth is this? Why do I need all these characters? Well, yeah, sometimes novels do this, or novelists do this just to give you headaches sometimes, and to really give you a lot of events, and maybe to write more pages, and maybe because they want to make big books and to sell books and to make money. Yeah, absolutely. So that's why you have here main plot about main characters, and you have subplots about sub characters or secondary characters or minor characters, and that's why they are called minor plots. Of course, minor plots help the main plot, as we shall see. I will explain this to you later on next time, inshallah, and I will stop here this morning, ladies and gentlemen. But before you go, I want to check the attendance, please. I think I will stop recording, because that's it for today.